The elements of a concept form a unity, as do subject and predicate in a proposition. There is no equivalent in the world of directly perceived phenomena. The organism, as the bridge between matter and mind, is the first step towards such an equivalent. Interaction merges its elements, and it strives constantly for an unattainable perfect unity. Only in the mind, however, does interaction become real integration. The interaction of exchange brings about a mental unity of values. The spatially extended substance is only a symbol of money, because the disconnectedness of what exists as substance contradicts the nature of money as an abstract representation of interaction. Only to the extent that the material element recedes does money become real money, that is a real integration and a point of unification of interacting elements of value, which only the mind can accomplish. The increasing significance of money as value. If the functions of money can be exercised in part side by side with its material, and in part independently of the quantity of this material, and if therefore the value of money declines, then this does not mean that there is a general decline in the value of money, but only in determinate quantities of it. The two things do not coincide, and it might almost be said that the less valuable any given quantity of money becomes, the more valuable is money generally. For only when money is cheap and any given amount of it less valuable, can it have the wide diffusion, rapid circulation and general utility that assure its present role. The same relationship between a particular quantity of money and money in general prevails in the individual mind. It is just the spendthrifts who part most easily with money for specific purchases, who are at the same time most dependent on money in general. This is one of the meanings of the saying that one can despise money only if one possesses it in abundance. In peaceful times and places, where the tempo of economical life is slow and money circulates sluggishly, a given quantity of money is valued more highly than it is in the economic jungle of modern urban life. The rapid circulation of money induces habits of spending and acquisition. It makes a specific quantity of money psychologically less significant and valuable, while money in general becomes increasingly important because money matters now affect the individual more vitally than they do in a less agitated style of life. We are confronted here with a very common phenomenon, namely, that the total value of something increases to the same extent as the value of its individual parts declines. For example, the size and significance of a social group often becomes greater the less highly the lives and interests of its individual members are valued, the objective culture, the diversity and liveliness of its content attain their highest point through a division of labor that often condemns the individual representative and participant in this culture to a monotonous specialization, narrowness, and stunted growth. The whole becomes more perfect and harmonious, the less the individual is a harmonious being. The same phenomenon appears in impersonal things. The charm and perfection of certain poems consists in the fact that the individual words have no independent meaning. They serve the dominant emotion or the artistic purpose of the whole, and all the varied associations that make up the full meaning of the word are excluded, except for those that bear upon the central theme of the poem. The whole poem is artistically more perfect to the extent that its individual elements lose their meaning. Finally, a more trivial example, the costs of production and the aesthetic value of a mosaic are higher the smaller are the single pieces. The colors of the whole are most striking and most subtle when the single piece occupies a small area and is in itself insignificant. In the sphere of valuation, it is not at all unusual for the values of the whole and the parts to develop in inverse ratio. This is not fortuitous, but expresses a causal connection. The fact that a given quantity of money is less valuable today than it was centuries ago is a direct precondition for the enormously increased significance of money in general. This condition itself in turn depends upon the increase in the functional as against the material value of money. It is apparent not only in the case of money in general, but also in various derivative phenomena. For example, the rate of interest was extremely high so long as there were few interest-bearing loans, as a result of the Church's doctrine of usury and the general conditions of a barter economy. The rate of interest declined steadily with the growing importance of interest in economic life. From a theoretical standpoint, it would be a profound mistake to regard the change from substance to function as a process in which money becomes valueless, as though it were similar to depriving a man of his soul. This view misses the main point, namely that the functions into which money is dissolved are valuable in themselves, and that the value that money acquires is a supplementary value in the case of metallic money but the sole value in the case of token money. It is unquestionably a real value, like that of the locomotive whose value in providing transportation exceeds the value of the material from which it is constructed. It is true that money is able to function initially because it has intrinsic value, but subsequently it becomes valuable because it exercises these functions. To equate the value of money with the value of its material is like equating the value of a locomotive with the weight of iron that it contains plus the value of the labor employed in its construction. It may appear that this comparison does in fact disprove the assumption that there is a specific value originating from the function. The price of a locomotive, in this context, we need not differentiate between value and price, in fact consists of the value of the material plus the value of the labor invested in it. The fact that a locomotive, like money, brings about the exchange of objects is only a reason for it to be valued at all. Its actual value does not depend upon this fact. Similarly, the utility of countless other objects is responsible for their having a market price, but the actual level of market prices is determined by many other factors. Utility establishes, at most, a limit beyond which the price cannot rise, but it has no influence upon the actual price level. If this comparison is valid, then the value of money seems to be removed once again from its functions to its material.